The other day I was working from home, right? Just grinding through emails at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. And I look out my window and I see my neighbor, this dude named Greg, just casually walking his golden retriever down the street. No rush, coffee in one hand, leash in the other. The guy looked like he was starring in a vitamin D commercial. And my first thought wasn't, oh, that's nice. My first thought was, what does Greg do? Like, what does this man do for a living that he's out here walking a dog at 11 a.m. on a weekday looking like he doesn't owe anybody anything? So later that week, I actually ran into Greg by the mailbox, and I just asked him. And here's the thing that kind of broke my brain a little. Greg doesn't make crazy money. He's not a tech bro. He's not a crypto millionaire. The dude works in logistics, makes about 95K a year. And he told me something I honestly haven't stopped thinking about since. He said, I don't make a lot, Blake. I just don't need a lot. And that difference? That's where my peace lives. And I just stood there like, Greg just dropped a whole TED talk on me in his driveway in cargo shorts. Because here's what nobody really talks about in the personal finance space. There is an actual income level where financial stress starts to disappear. Like, real scientists have studied this. Researchers at Princeton, at Wharton, they've spent years trying to answer one simple question. What's the number? At what point does money stop being the thing that keeps you up at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling? And the answer is way lower than most people think. Way lower than what the Instagram finance gurus will tell you. And honestly, it might be lower than what you're making right now. But here's what's wild. If that's true, if the number really is that low, then why do so many people earning six figures still feel like they're drowning? Why are people pulling in 150K, 200K a year and still checking their bank account with one eye closed like they're watching a horror movie? Why does it feel like no matter how much more you make, the stress just shape-shifts into a different version of itself? If you clicked on this video, I think you already feel this. Maybe you got the raise. Maybe you hit the number you thought would change everything, and it didn't. Something still feels tight. Or maybe you're still grinding toward a number, convinced that once you get there, everything clicks into place. Either way, something feels off. And that feeling is exactly what we need to talk about. Now let me be straight with you for a second. This is not another money can't buy happiness video. I'm not about to sit here in a cozy sweater and tell you to go meditate in a field and forget about your 401k. That's not what this is. But I'm also not going to lie to you and say, just hustle harder and everything gets better. Because that advice? That's the financial equivalent of telling someone who's drowning to just swim faster. It doesn't work, especially if you're swimming in the wrong direction. What I am going to show you is what the actual research says, and I'm talking Princeton studies, Harvard's 85-year happiness study, Federal Reserve data, real stuff, about the true relationship between your income and your stress. And more importantly, why most people completely misunderstand this relationship, and how that misunderstanding is quietly costing them years of their life. Quick thing though, nothing in this video is financial advice or an investment recommendation. This is a broader look at how money and stress actually interact based on real research and real patterns. We good? Good. I'm Blake, by the way. And if you stick around for this whole thing, I promise you're going to walk away seeing your paycheck, your spending, your whole financial life through a completely different lens. We're going to go through the actual science first, then I'm going to show you why high earners are still miserable. And then, toward the end, I'm going to break down the exact framework that separates people who earn a lot and feel broke from people who earn modestly and feel genuinely free. That last part alone is worth your time, I promise you. So if that sounds like something you actually want to understand, hit subscribe right now. Because this channel is built for people who don't just want to make more money, they want money to actually work for them, mentally, emotionally, and practically. We go deep here, every single week. All right, let's get into it. So let's start with the science. Because if we're going to have this conversation, let's build it on something solid, not opinions, not vibes. In 2010, a Nobel Prize winner named Daniel Kahneman and an economist named Angus Deaton published a study out of Princeton that basically shook the personal finance world. They surveyed over 450,000 Americans and found that emotional well-being, meaning how happy, how calm, how stress-free you feel on a regular day, stops meaningfully improving once your household income hits about $75,000 a year. Above that? Yeah, You make more money, but you don't get more peace. Now fast forward to 2021. A researcher named Matthew Killingsworth out of Wharton comes along and says, actually, well-being does keep going up past 75K. And people ran with that headline. See, more money is better. Keep grinding. But here's what most people completely missed. In 2023, Kahneman and Killingsworth actually sat down together, reanalyzed everything, and published a joint paper. What they found was way more nuanced than either headline. For the majority of people, the plateau is real. Somewhere between 75K and 100K, the emotional return on every extra dollar falls off a cliff. The only group that kept getting significantly happier with more money were people who were deeply unhappy to begin with. And for them, more money wasn't buying happiness. It was buying escape from misery. That's a very different thing. Now adjust that 75K from 2010 for inflation, and you land somewhere around 100K to 105K in today's dollars. So, the number where financial stress starts dissolving? Roughly 100K. And here's the part that should genuinely make you pause. The median household income in America right now is around 60K. That means most people are way closer to this threshold than they realize. And a lot of people who've already blown past it, who are making 150, 200, 300K, still stressed out of their minds. Harvard Business School did a study and found that people earning over $1 million a year said they'd need 2 to 3 times more to feel financially secure. 2 to 3 times more of $1 million. That is not a money problem. That's a perception problem. It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. You keep consuming, and it keeps making you need more. The thirst never actually stops. So if roughly 100K is the zone where stress should start fading, why are so many people earning way more than that still anxious about money? I think it comes down to one quiet, invisible enemy. Lifestyle inflation. Here's how it works. Every time your income goes up, your lifestyle quietly goes up with it. New salary, new car, promotion, nicer apartment, annual bonus, vacation upgrade. And before you even notice, you're making twice what you made 5 years ago and saving the exact same amount, which is nothing. There's actually a name for this phenomenon. It's called the Diderot effect, and the story behind it is kind of perfect. Back in the 1700s, the French philosopher Denis Diderot received this gorgeous, expensive scarlet robe as a gift. And the moment he put it on, he looked around his study, and suddenly everything else looked shabby compared to this fancy robe. So he replaced his old chair, then his desk, then his curtains, then his rug. He basically renovated his entire house trying to match one robe, and went into debt doing it. That is exactly what happens when you buy the Tesla. Suddenly your garage looks bad. Now your driveway needs work. Now your house doesn't match your car. One purchase creates a chain reaction of spending that never really ends. And then, oh man, then you add social media to the equation. You're making 150K a year. You should feel great. But you open Instagram and some 26-year-old is casually showing you their Porsche, their penthouse view, their trading portfolio that apparently only goes up. And suddenly your 150K feels like minimum wage. Your brain doesn't compare you to the national average. It compares you to whoever's on your feed. You know what the Federal Reserve found in their data? 40% of Americans earning over 100K are living paycheck to paycheck. I need you to hear that again. Over 100K, paycheck to paycheck. 4 out of 10. Earning 200K a year and spending 200K a year is not wealth. That's a high-speed treadmill with a nice view. You're running full speed and going nowhere. Here's a comparison that honestly kind of messed with me when I first thought about it. A family in Ohio making 85K a year with a paid-off house and zero debt has more actual financial freedom than a couple in New York City making 250K, who's paying $8,000 a month in rent and still chipping away at student loans. On paper, the NYC couple looks way richer. In real life, the Ohio family is sleeping like babies on a Tuesday night, while the New York couple is arguing about whether they can afford a vacation this year. So if the stress isn't really about income level, what is it actually about? After going through all the research, all the data, all the patterns, I think financial stress boils down to 3 things, and not one of them is your salary number. Number 1, margin. That's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Not how much comes in, but how much stays. Your savings rate is more important than your income. Full stop. A person saving 25% of 80K is in a fundamentally better position than someone saving 3% of 200K. That's just math. Simple, boring, powerful math. Number 2, agency. The feeling that you're in control of your financial life, that you're making decisions instead of just reacting to bills and due dates and overdraft notifications. When money feels like something that's happening to you instead of something you're directing, stress goes through the roof. Doesn't matter if you make 60K or 600K. Number 3, runway. How many months could you survive if your income disappeared tomorrow? Your emergency fund, your freedom money, your "I don't have to take this anymore" cushion. Whatever you want to call it. That number, that runway, is the most underrated stress killer in personal finance. And here's a stat that honestly should change how you think about your next financial move. Research shows that having 6 months of expenses saved in the bank reduces financial anxiety more than a 30% raise. More than a 30% raise. So if you're choosing between hustling for a bigger paycheck or building up your safety net, the safety net wins. It's not even close. Think of it like this. Money is like oxygen. When you don't have enough, it's literally all you can think about. Every breath is a struggle. But once you can breathe normally, once the basics are covered and you have a cushion, having extra tanks of oxygen stacked up in your garage doesn't make your lungs work any better. You're already breathing fine. More oxygen doesn't improve the breath. Morgan Housel talks about this brilliantly in The Psychology of Money. The people who feel the richest aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who figured out they're enough and actually stopped chasing once they hit it. They drew a line in the sand. And that line, the act of drawing it, that's what gave them peace. But here's where things get really heavy. Because chasing more money doesn't just fail to reduce your stress. It often actively costs you things you can never get back. Let's start with the obvious one. Time. Higher salaries usually come packaged with longer hours, bigger responsibilities, more emails at 10 p.m., more quick calls on Saturday mornings that are never quick. You traded your hours for dollars, and hours are the only currency you can never, ever earn back. There's no side hustle for time. There's no compound interest on minutes. Once they're gone, they're gone. Then there's health. The American Institute of Stress found that 83% of American workers deal with work-related stress. 83%. And chronic stress isn't just uncomfortable, it's destructive. It wrecks your sleep, messes with your digestion, weakens your immune system, ages you faster. You're earning more and literally paying for it with your body. Then, relationships. There's real data showing that divorce rates climb in households where one or both partners consistently work 60-plus hours a week. The money keeps coming in, but the person stops coming home. And I don't care what anyone says, no bonus check in the world fixes a marriage that slowly died from absence. And maybe the scariest hidden cost of all, your identity. When your self-worth gets welded to your net worth, any dip in income doesn't just hurt your bank account. It breaks something inside you. You don't just feel poorer, you feel less than. And living in that headspace where your value as a human being fluctuates with your bank balance, that is a terrifying way to exist. I want you to sit with this for a second. You didn't actually want 300K a year. You wanted what you thought 300K would feel like. The security, the calm, the options, the breathing room, and that feeling, it comes from a completely different place than a paycheck. It's like running faster on a highway that's going in the wrong direction. Speed doesn't help if the destination is wrong. You're just getting further from where you actually want to be, but faster. All right, so now let's talk about what to actually do with all of this. Because awareness is great, but awareness without action is just anxiety with extra steps. Let's get practical. Step 1. Figure out your enough number. Sit down and add up your real essential monthly expenses. Housing, food, transportation, insurance, the non-negotiables. Then add the things that genuinely bring you joy. Not status, not look at me spending. Real, honest joy. Maybe that's travel twice a year. Maybe that's a solid gym membership and good food. Maybe it's a hobby fund or date nights. Add it all up. Multiply by 12. That's your annual enough number. And for most Americans, it's somewhere between 75K and 120K. That's it. That's the whole number. Step 2. Automate the gap. Everything you earn above your enough number, It goes straight to savings and investments, automatically, before you see it, before you can spend it, before lifestyle inflation gets its greedy little hands on it. You pay your future first, not with leftovers, with first dibs. Step 3. Build your runway. 6 to 12 months of living expenses sitting in a liquid, accessible account. This isn't an investment. This isn't trying to beat the market. This is a stress eliminator. This is the thing that lets you sleep on Sunday nights. This is the thing that lets you walk away from a job that's killing your soul. This is freedom sitting quietly in a savings account. Step 4. Audit your status spending. Pull up your last 3 months of bank statements and be brutally honest. How much of what you spent was actually for you, and how much was performance? How much was keeping up appearances? Because here's a secret about keeping up with the Joneses that nobody mentions. The Joneses are broke too. They're financing that lifestyle just like everyone else. The Joneses have credit card debt and a car lease, and they're stressed out of their minds behind that perfect lawn. Step 5. Invest in the real Big Three. Harvard University ran the longest study on happiness in human history. It's called the Grant Study. 85 years of tracking real people's lives. And you know what they found predicts happiness and life satisfaction more than anything else? Not income, not job title, not zip code, not the car you drive. 3 things: strong relationships, good health, and a sense of purpose. That's it. Not a single one of those things requires a 6-figure salary. You don't need to earn more, you need to need less. And then invest the difference, not just in the stock market, but in your actual life. So let me leave you with this. Picture 2 people. Person A makes $350K a year, drives a beautiful car, lives in a really nice neighborhood, but spends about $15K a month, has almost no savings, works 70 hours a week, hasn't taken a real vacation in 2 years, checks his phone at dinner, snaps at his kids when they interrupt him, lays awake at night doing mental math, wondering if it's enough. It never feels like enough. Person B makes $95K a year, drives a paid-off Honda Accord, lives in a modest home in a solid, quiet neighborhood, spends about $4K a month, has a 12-month emergency runway, invests 30% of his income consistently, works a clean 40 hours, coaches his kids' soccer team on Saturday mornings, goes to bed and falls asleep in minutes. Who's richer? Seriously, who is actually richer? The richest person in any room is never the one with the highest income. It's the one who doesn't think about money when they wake up in the morning. The income level where stress disappears? It really is lower than you think, because it was never about the income in the first place. It was about the relationship you built with money. Fix that relationship, truly fix it, and 100K feels like $1 million. Ignore it, and $1 million will never ever feel like enough. Be more like Greg. I'll see you in the next one.